Campania was once a center of the ancient world in the Mediterranean, and today is part of Italy, picture postcard perfect. Gorgeous coastlines, romantic villages, paradise islands. This cradle of European culture is an impressive place. Napoli, capital of Campania in southern Italy. A city that has given its name to a gulf and 3 famous islands. The Centro Storico Monumentale is located around the harbour. The Piazza del Plebiscito embodies both grandeur and vastness. On one side of the square is the Chiesa San Francesco di Paola, a church of triumph that was built by Ferdinand in 1815, following the return of the Bourbons. Modelled on the Pantheon of Rome. The statues represent religion, the Holy Castilia and Paola and Maria. Here, Swiss architect Pietro Bianchi created a masterpiece. Opposite the Palazzo Reale is an exterior facade and niches that contain the statues of the past 8 rulers of Naples. Each of them ruled Naples from Roger the Norman to King of a united Italy, Vittorio Emanuele II. On the corner of the square is the Café Gambrinus, well-known meeting place of politicians, artists and composers. Next to the Galleria Umberto Mall, with its impressive roof constructed of iron and glass, and elegantly patterned marble floor. Luxury symbolized Italy's brave new era. Close to the harbour is the mighty Castel Nuovo. Its graceful entrance arch seemingly hemmed in by 2 awkward-looking towers. Its construction began during the reign of Charles I, but Alphonse of Aragon subsequently had the castle completely rebuilt. In the 14th century, both political and cultural life took place here, and the Sala dei Baroni indicates this former centre of power. Borgo Santa Lucia lies in front of the city. The island is dominated by a building which in ancient times was the residence of Lucullus, the Castel dell'Ovo, the oldest fortress in Naples. On the Caracciolo coastal road towards Mergellina is the Parco Comunale. This former royal garden boasts the oldest aquarium and marine research institute in Europe. And at various weekends, a flea market takes place in the park. The promenade ends in Mergellina. We enter through Porta Capuano, Europe's largest ancient town and old centre of Naples. Castel Capuano rises up into the sky. It was built by the Normans in order to deter possible invaders. The Via dei Tribunali is one of three main streets that originated in antiquity. Around 1,400 sacred Gothic buildings originated along this important lifeline of the city. The Duomo di San Gennaro is one of the most famous. The cupola of the Cappella is decorated with frescoes by Lanfranco and contains the bones of the city's patron saint and the oldest baptistry in the Occident. Also, the Spacca Napoli is one of the city's three Greek-Roman streets. A small side street, the Via Gregorio Armeno, is known as the Alley of Christmas Cribs. Amid the tangled alleys is hidden the San Lorenzo Maggiore church, with an inner courtyard and cloister. The largest monastery in Naples is thought to have been the setting in which Boccaccio met his Fametta. In the archaeological complex of the church is an ancient commercial Roman street above which the monastery was built. Where once the ancient Agora of Napoli stood, St. Cajetan invites us to visit the early Baroque basilica that was named after him. The interior of the upper church was altered by Francesco Grimaldi. A temple of the Dioscuri was transformed into a Christian basilica. In the crypta, there are altars and tombs. A sarcophagus is the final place of rest for St. Cajetan. Next to the church is an entrance to the city's hidden underworld, Napoli Sotterranea, a subterranean system of tunnels and caves that provided a water supply in World War II and was used as an air raid shelter. Again and again, churches show the way through the old town. On the Piazza San Domenico, the Baroque plague column supports the statue of Saint Domenicus, who showed mercy for the poor. Appearing to be both severe and modest, the Gothic church was the largest monastery complex in Naples, the Santa Chiara. At the beginning of the 14th century, Robert of Anjou had this church built and his wife established a Clarissa monastery here. The courtyard and cloister were added later. Large, colourful majolica with playful motifs transformed the corridors into monastic places of contemplation. The Piazza Gesù Nuovo marks the end of the route through the ancient town. The unusual facade of the church of the same name surprises with its dark, tough stone. The church's interior demonstrates with Baroque splendor the Neapolitan fixation with over-ornate decoration. At the highest point of the city mound of Vomero is the spectacular Castel Sant'Elmo, with amazing views of the Old Town and the Gulf. The massive fortifications were built under Spanish monarch Pedro de Toledo in the 14th century. The fort defended the city. Also on the Vomero is the former Carthusian monastery of San Martino, the place where monks once meditated and lived according to their rules of faith, was secularized under Catholic rule. From up here, the city is like a dream. A piece of heaven that fell to earth. That's how the Neapolitans refer to their beautiful city and its surroundings. Early in the morning, the first ferries bring passengers, goods and vehicles to various islands in the Gulf of Naples. First, the Isola di Procida. We slowly approach the small harbour. Measuring 4 square kilometers, Procida is the smallest island off Naples, densely populated and with a long history. The site of the picturesque Marina Grande at the Cattolico ferry port typifies relaxed island life. Religious seamen built churches and houses here, up steep slopes to the old town of Terra Murata, the walled land. Fishing combines with tourism, and the region's boat building and marine skills had their roots here. The buildings are unmistakably Arabian in character, with arches, balconies, external stairways and semicircular windows. The road leads up to the old town through narrow streets. Halfway up and located between the buildings is the Baroque Santa Maria della Grazia church. From here, the view of the fishing village of Coricera is quite remarkable, with its small harbour and colourful buildings situated on the caldera of an extinct volcano. What now looks peaceful and romantic has a dramatic history. The area around the castle is like a sleepy and mysterious scene from another age. Closely packed together, a mosaic of citadel, palace, monastery, and numerous buildings on tough rock at 90 meters above sea level. Terra Murata was built in the 16th century under Alfonso of Avalos, who made Castle Hill secure, in order to protect the islanders from pirate raids. Here too, the architecture of the buildings in the narrow streets is of Arabian design. The subsequent hunting grounds of the Bourbons became an island prison, and eventually the leisure time destination of the inhabitants of Naples. The ferry leaves the port and travels along the coast once again, past the fort to the next island. Where today ferries travel to and fro was once a crater lake that flowed into the sea. Ischia, the island of Titan Tifoios, the largest of the 3 islands in the Gulf of Naples, each one now being a popular tourist destination. On the quay, colourful buildings welcome visitors. Both Ischia Porto and Ischia Ponte appear to have developed together. Here there are modest houses, the palazzi of the rich, and fine Baroque churches. The village of Ponte is still home to fishermen who offer their tasty daily catch on the pier. Castello Aragonese is the symbol of Ischia, a small town protected by the castle situated on a rock just off the island. The ruins of the castle, settlement, churches and monasteries feature numerous architectural styles. The village is connected to the little island by a causeway. Picturesque indeed. Here the sea still affects daily routine, and life on the coast between Ponte and Porto has remained unchanged. Ischia's wide streets and vibrant waterfront reveal a popular tourist destination, and excursion boats are moored in front of typical harbour-side restaurants. The Isola Verde is rightly known as the Green Island. In addition to its hot springs, the lush vegetation is a splendid sight. Cliff walls plunge steeply into the sea, and settlements nestle on each spare plot of land. Magical fishing villages such as Sant'Angelo enchant with their white and pastel-coloured Moorish buildings, crowded close together on the volcanic cliffs. The picturesque scenery of the south. Forio, the second largest community on the island, is a centre of the wine trade. When the sun sets behind the picturesque church on the rock, all is at peace. Back on the mainland, an impressive mountain awaits us in Naples, Vesuvius, a place of ancient myth and catastrophe. A bizarre landscape of craters breathing out mysterious wisps of smoke since early times, an active volcano that last erupted in 1944. Its highly explosive potential and nearby large population make Vesuvius the most dangerous volcanic threat in Europe. It was here that the world's first well-documented natural disaster took place. Pompeii, the incarnation of a civilization that was destroyed by natural forces. And it was only by accident that parts of the ancient city were discovered south of Naples. Numerous underground corridors which contained statues and inscriptions were discovered during work on the drainage system in 1594. At that time, no one suspected that they were part of an ancient city. The scientific excavations that continue to the present day began in the 18th century. More than a third of the city is still concealed beneath the volcanic rock. Due to the airtight conditions beneath the lava, Pompeii is the best preserved ancient city in the world. Various buildings and baths highlight the advanced civilization of that time. A large theatre with its magnificent colonnades competed with the temples of numerous gods. The lively city of Pompeii attempted to compete with Rome and offered its visitors abundant luxury and diverse entertainment. Millions of tons of lava, pumice stone and ash shot up into the sky. A black cloud several kilometers high moved towards the city, covering it with lava, fumes and ash. The ancient city lay buried among ash and lava for almost 1,500 years. Castellamare is the hectic gateway to the mountainous peninsula of Sorrento. The ancient name of the city was Stabiae. The devastating eruption of Vesuvius buried this Roman settlement beneath a meter of ash. There's a promenade along the curved harbour bay. A small fishing pier is squeezed between the ferry terminal and the giant shipyards. This mix of resort and industrial centre dates back to Ferdinand IV, who designed the shipyards in 1785. Where once visitors walked in a peaceful atmosphere, hustle and bustle eventually conquered the ancient streets and squares. Life here is hectic. The city centre has been pedestrianised, and the cathedral and many of the old buildings have been well preserved in all of their original splendour. The former wealth of this city is struggling with modern demands. Close by is the most famous place on this section of the coast, Sorrento. This small town is located in an expansive bay and extends on a cliff above the sea, with turn-of-the-century villas and grand hotels. A number of Britons wealthy have recently discovered it for themselves, a popular location at the southern end of the Gulf of Naples. Formerly a Greek settlement and birthplace of Torquato Tasso. Sorrento's secrets lie hidden in numerous cloisters, gardens and courtyards, and within the footsteps of European history. They all came here, Greeks, Romans, Normans, French, Spanish, to a place that since ancient times has been used for recreation. Most of the streets are typical of Roman city planning, and the San Francesco Cathedral is located on the site of an ancient forum. The attached cloister of the former Franciscan convent is of Gothic Moorish design. In the 18th and 19th centuries, wealthy Central and Northern Europeans discovered the scenic beauty, mild climate and hospitality of this region. World-famous hotels were built, and it soon attracted the stars of stage and screen. The old town has retained the atmosphere of bygone times. Where once Benedictines and Franciscans went about their holy duties, the holiday feeling is now celebrated in a splendid environment with all the Mediterranean flair that goes with it. Sorrento is famous for its music, so a visit to the Teatro Tasso is one of the highlights of our visit, as it's where the Sorrento Musicale is performed each night. There are songs and dances of the sea and of the marketplace. The main theme is love. Which is expressed by well-known songs. During the final public festival, the fiery tarantella is danced late into the evening. "200 years of traditional music, dance and customs captivate the audience." Early in the morning, the ferry leaves Sorrento Harbour. Our route goes south, along the Gulf of Sorrento, to the third and most famous island in the Tyrrhenian Sea. A magical place, the quintessence of romance, a dream that reawakes each day. The Marina Grande welcomes us. Colourful buildings with balconies and terraces, shops and restaurants, and many small boats. Capri Village attracts many visitors. And a funiculare makes the going easy. The views are truly outstanding. Capri Village, with its small main square, the Salon of Europe, is an enchanting location, set within a striking rocky landscape. The Baroque church with its adjoining bell tower is a main symbol of the island. And the nearby Kisisana is one of the most luxurious hotels in the world. Beyond the maze of lanes, there's a huge monastery complex, the Certosa di San Giacomo. At the end of the 14th century, this former Carthusian monastery was built according to the design of the Charterhouse in Naples. Above the Certosa, at the highest point of the Via Mattiotti, is a small park that was commissioned by Krupp, the famous German industrialist. Capri is both tourism and idyll. Anna Capri is the second capital of the island. Its oldest area, Le Boffet, contains narrow streets, striking buildings, and tiny squares. Here it is quieter, less built up, more natural. The forecourt of the Baroque Church of Santa Sofia is the meeting place of the locals who are little affected by tourism. However, popular with tourists and in a superb location on the edge of a cliff is the Villa San Michele. This was once the home and workplace of Swedish physician, collector and writer Axel Munther, who here realized his dream of a white villa. a free-of-charge chairlift travels up the green northern slopes of Monte Solaro, the highest mountain on the island. Here, La Dolce Vita and tourism seem far away, and Capri is like a distant magic land set within an azure sea. The Costa d'Amalfi in the south of Italy is both wild and beautiful, framed by the Tyrrhenian Sea and the foothills of the Laetare Mountains. Sorrento marks the beginning of a journey along one of the most beautiful panoramic roads in the world, the Amalfitana. Until the end of the 19th century, the Amalfi coast was mainly accessible from the sea, but later a road was built. The truly spectacular Amalfitana is around 25 miles long, and since its completion in the middle of the 19th century, has become the region's lifeline and allowed tourism to develop. Next, Positano. With steep slopes and colourful buildings, the mountains reach right down to the shoreline. A Madonna surveys a small sheltered bay in which there's little room for habitation. Towards the end of the 1950s, this then little-known place was discovered by tourism in the form of artists and hippies. In between the Santa Maria Assunta Church with its campanile and various buildings, there's a splendid relief of a sea monster. The small town was once dominated by a monastery, and its flourishing maritime trade was in competition with that of Amalfi. Next came the strict feudal system of the Aragons, pirate hostilities, and the plague. Positano became less important, a forgotten place on this rocky coastline. Seen from the beach, the church dome that is decorated with majolica tiles rises above the closely packed buildings. It's a marvelous sight. According to tradition, it may have been freed Roman slaves who could have given Positano its name when the inhabitants of Paestum sought refuge here. They came to escape the raids of the Saracens. The pink and white buildings look as though they've been stacked one on top of the other, and appear from a distance like curious faces. The small sandy beach in the bay is packed full of restaurants. And just beyond the first buildings is a whitewashed maze of alleys and steps, steep but full of character. Wherever one looks, the scenery is just beautiful. Positano was for centuries a paradise for poets and dreamers. And even the intrusion of the jet set was not able to destroy its original character. Between Sorrento and Vietro sul Mare, the coastal road winds along mountain slopes, a dream road between both sea and sky. Here, nature is a true work of art. There's always something new to see. Extreme curves, sharp rock forms, and dramatic coastal slopes. Often the road is quite precarious. The first road to be built here was started by the Bourbons. In the middle of the 19th century, the ruler of Naples made himself responsible for the progress of the region's infrastructure. With its central San Gennaro church, the small village of Praiano contains much authentic atmosphere and romance. It was founded by a number of wealthy families from Amalfi who settled here. The relatively large church lies well protected below the coast road. The ornately tiled courtyard is popular with the locals and has stunning views, as well as the eternal blessing of their patron saint. Life here was, and is, determined by a deep Catholic faith. The interior indicates the wealth of past times, with no Baroque excess, only well thought out design. Here the Doge of Amalfi once prayed as he chose Praiano as his summer residence. A secluded and tranquil place, at that time only accessible by sea. The buildings were constructed on the craggy cliffs of Capo Sottile, and the coastline has a fjord-like shape. For centuries, this coast was cut off and forgotten by the world. At each and every turn, something new to see. This wild, coastal landscape does not easily lend itself to human habitation. Only in the early morning or late evening is this panoramic road along the Costiera Amalfitana relatively free of traffic. Clearly, the region has developed according to its history. And this road has been well incorporated within its structure. Amalfi, beating heart of the coast. Today a world-famous resort squeezed into the mouth of a valley of mills. In the Middle Ages, Amalfi, along with Pisa, Genoa and Venice, was one of Italy's most powerful maritime republics, and its prosperity showed. Following the decline of the Roman Empire, the city was the first to successfully restore trade between East and West. A steep staircase of 57 steps leads up to the cathedral's atrium, which together with its campanile is located in a small main square. The cathedral also contains an early Christian basilica. A Byzantine bronze door made in Constantinople survived a devastating earthquake in 1881 unscathed. The cloister of the Duomo Sant'Andrea was built in the 13th century and between its Arabian Spanish pillars contains Amalfi's past aristocracy. A place of tranquility, a cemetery in paradise. The remains of Holy Martyr Andreas lie in the crypt. The interior of the dome is of Baroque design, and there's lavish decoration, a gilded wooden ceiling, numerous oil paintings, and colourful marble walls. Magnificent art of the early 18th century. Tourists visit the town throughout the year. Its few narrow streets are crowded and the shops have adapted themselves well to the needs of modern-day holidaymakers. Tourism brings in a healthy income here. The financial survival of both town and region are assured. Tsunamis and pirate raids that ended the Golden Age are now a thing of the past, and this forgotten coast has now been well and truly rediscovered. The town has retained its unique charm. In the Middle Ages, Amalfi was also a major centre of paper-making. An old mill is testament to its production. And there's a display of photographs and paper patterns. The Valle dei Mulini that leads up to the mountains was once the location of several water-powered paper mills that manufactured what was then, as it is today, an essential product. A path leads through lemon groves and vegetable gardens, higher and higher. It takes some time before the view back to the valley and Amalfi disappears. There's the aromatic scent of flowers and fruit, and a sense of calm in contrast to all the hustle and bustle of the town below. The ruins of the once hectic and noisy paper mills are now a distant memory compared to the tranquility of this place as it is today. Residues of cotton were milled in large stone troughs of water, after which much working resulted in a pulp. Next, the pulp was moved into a vat and filtered by way of a metal grill. Then the leaves of paper were dried and pressed. Now a tiny mill stream is all that moves here. High above the coast is Ravello, that in the 9th century belonged to the League of Cities of the Amalfi Republic and served as a defence against the Normans. It boasted 12 churches plus various convents and palaces in medieval Moorish architecture that highlighted a glorious era of luxury and wealth. The cathedral was founded by Benedictine monk Orso Papico at the end of the 11th century. And its piazza became a comfortable meeting place for gourmets. Later, rich merchant families had their sumptuous villas built here. However, the families gradually faded away and the mountain town became depopulated. Until it was later rediscovered by artists and writers in the Romantic era. English artist William Turner was one of the first to move to Ravello, and his fine landscapes unleashed a strong passion for this special region. The natural beauty of the mountain town and the splendid ambience of a fashionable summer resort make this architectural treasure unique. Externally, most of the villas and palaces look rather modest, almost completely hidden behind garden walls. The townscape has largely been preserved, and while strolling through the narrow streets, it's almost like traveling back in time. Stone gateways with coats of arms and medieval gardens add to this feeling. And buildings such as the Palazzo Sasso make it all seem so vivid, even though it was rebuilt within a luxurious hotel. When Richard Wagner came here, burnt out and tired, Ravello's magic inspired his Parsifal. The city is a monument, a fairy tale under the southern sun. One of the most beautiful streets in the world winds along the Amalfi Coast and contains an abundant array of wonderful scenery. Technically known as the SS 163, this road is quite an experience and becomes a dreamy adventure. On the 7th of September 1997, the Costiera Amalfitana region was designated as a UNESCO Cultural Heritage Site. The same road connects many gems of both nature and culture. The picturesque town of Cetera is a typical fishing village. With fishing boats in its small harbour and the strong smell of fish. Its name is derived from Cetarius, the Latin word for tuna. The fishermen here go to sea late at night, as they have done for centuries. In the centre of the city is the domed church of San Pietro, nestling between the buildings and narrow streets. Cetera was once located on the eastern border of the maritime Republic of Amalfi and was therefore often threatened by attack. The area was ruled by the Lombards, who chose Salerno as their capital. According to ancient chronicles, Cetera was twice occupied by Arab nations. In 879 AD by the Saracens, and in 1551 by the Turks. Maiori Cava de Tereni was its seat of government. In 1883, it became independent and peace prevailed. The final section of the road leads to Vietri sul Mare, the southern end of the Amalfitana, a symbiosis of both sea views and coastline. Thankfully, for several generations, the Costa d'Amalfi has further developed into a magnificent landscape with English garden architecture, Greco-Roman elements, and Arabian Mediterranean flair. Steep cliffs and a breathtaking route until we arrive at Vietri sul Mare. This is our final destination, and since Etruscan times has been known as the City of Ceramics. Since ancient times, this Mediterranean region has been a highly prized area. A land where lemon trees blossom, in which both past and present merge into a unique cultural landscape, to where nature enchants. Campania, paradise of gods and man.